Hi friends, welcome back to Arc Tutorials. This is Angular full tutorial series for absolute beginners. Of late, I'm getting a lot of emails and requests in comment section to cover all about components. How does the components communicate with each other? What is input directive? What is output directive? How do we use it? How do we consume data between different components using services? How do we customize the templates, etc., etc. I'm also getting a lot of feedback in the comments that when they go to interviews, they ask a lot of questions around component communication, etc. So I'm bringing you this particular episode, which is a masterclass on components, where we will deep dive everything and all major aspects of components in this particular episode. After this episode, I'm confident and I want you to be confident at the end of the tutorial that you know and you have mastered Angular components end to end. Let's get started. This is part 71 of the Angular 10 complete tutorial playlist. I have planned around 100 tutorials for you in this series. Soon I'll be starting a live project as well, that is next week, so stay tuned for that as well. The playlist link is in the description box below. Notes and code GitHub link is also in the description box below. Make sure to check out the entire tutorial playlist because I have covered a lot of details from ground up, from scratch to most advanced use cases. After this series, I'm sure you will be able to learn and master Angular. And I'm always here to help you if you need any help or need any doubts cleared. Today is episode 71 where we are learning about Angular components explained in detail. After this tutorial, you will be absolute master in Angular components. You will be able to create, generate components, use them, create parent-child relationship, use input-output directives, use services, and much, much more. I hope and I once you complete this tutorial, I want to hear from you that how confident you feel after completing this masterclass on components. That will give me an idea about if I need to bring more such masterclasses for you. I hope you will enjoy this tutorial. Let's get started. So what are we going to learn? So we are going to learn a lot of things today. So I'll keep making notes for you so that you don't lose track. We'll learn how to create components, use different style, different templates, different style URLs, learn how to use components from different modules, learn how to communicate between different components using input and output directives. We will learn how to communicate using service, and we'll also learn about Angular lifecycle hooks. All right. So without wasting any time, let's jump into what we are really good at, which is coding. Let's get started. Alrighty. So what I have here, let me fire up the application. So this is a basic Angular application, right? I'm not going to show you how to create an application from scratch. I've done that in the previous episode so of this particular series, so make sure you check it out. So which is nothing but to install Angular CLI and then create a new project using ng-new. That being said, this is how the output looks. So we have the basic, this is the starting of any Angular application. So if you are absolute new, please do check out Angular 10 playlist, which um, is in the description box below. This I have shown you how to get step-by-step install Angular CLI and also generating the new Angular application, which is ng new app name. Right, I'm just giving you command so that for our friends who are new, they can easily see this. So this is a command you would run to install the Angular CLI, and this is a command you will run to create new Angular application. Alrighty. So once you do these two commands, you would see, and once you do run the application, trust me, a lot of times people do ask such questions as how to do, so I thought I'll just make them for it. So you need to follow these three commands, which is install Angular CLI, then create a new app, and then do ng-serve, which I just did. So you should see compiled successfully, and once you have it, then we are good to learn about components. That is what we are going to do in today's episode. All right, so the first thing, let's learn how to create Angular components, right? Okay, how do you create Angular components? We do it using command ng generate c, or we can write component. Either way is fine. You can write a shortcut which is ng generate c and followed by the component name. So I'm going to open a new terminal here and I'm going to type the command ng generate. I should be in the project directory, and I'm going to type ng generate c, and I'm going to create a component by the name header, right? So here I'm going to create a, so this is the name of the component. So you see here header got created, our app module got updated. So this is how you create an Angular application component. Now how do you use, right? How do you use Angular component? And you might be thinking these are very basic. Yes, these are very basic. I'll start with basic. We'll keep on making it complicated as we progress in the application to the most complex use cases. So stay with me. Even if you know these things, it's a good recap. It's a good refresher course to learn everything about Angular components. All right. So how do you use Angular components? Take this component. You will have something called selector, right? Copy that, go to component wherever you want to use it. Now there is a trick here. Remember, there are some more interesting interview questions that are asked. It's a directive, so you will use app header, right? So see, app header is the name of this particular selector of this component that I just created, right? Now see here, the question comes, can selector name change? Can I change it? Yes, of course. We can have any name that we want. I can call it arc header, which is fine. I will use everywhere arc header, right? These are asked real time in interview questions, so make sure you follow with me. Can selector, can I provide a custom, right? So that was the question. Can selector name change? Or I can say, can we pass custom selector name? Yes, of course, like how we just did, which is it was app header. I called it arc header, and I can use it as arc header in any anywhere wherever I want to use it. So how do you use it? Use the selector tag as directive, right? Like this. So this is a selector name. Use it in the component which is arc header, and you should be able to see the output here, which is header works because it's included. Okay. So that is how you use Angular component. Now see that it will keep getting tricky from here. How do you use Angular components from different module? Now this is tricky, guys. A lot of people will miss out on some concepts. This component that I created was in the same module like app module. It was available in app module. That's why I could directly use using the directive name. Now, how do you use Angular components from different module? So let's see that. First, I'm going to create a new module. I'm going to say ng generate module, and I'm calling it, say, users. It can be any module of your choice. It can be a lazy loading module also. That's fine. Now I'm going to the users module. So I am in the users module, and I'm going to generate some components here. I'm going to say list users. So you see now we created a component under the users module, which is list users. I'm going to create, right? So now I want to use, now take this use case. We have users module. Inside this we have a component which is list users. Now I want to use list users. So in order to do that, we need to do two things. First, import the custom slash newly created module into app module, right? And how do you do that? So go to app module, import users from dot slash users slash user module, right? So what I'm doing here is I need to make sure that that instance of module is available in app module. Import it in the imports array. I have now imported the module, but can I use it? Let's see if I can use it. and then I will show you why you cannot use like that. So take this selector name, go to app component, put it here. What do you expect it? If you go by what I explained you in point number 2, you should see that working. But no, it will not work. It should give you error. Let me show you the error first. You see here, it gives error. Why? Because it is not exported. So in order to make it work, see here, it says app list users is not a known element. So for that, to fix that, what we need to do, go to users module, because that's where the list users is. And then we will copy this and say we need to export this component like this. So whichever component you want to make it available outside the module, like now we are trying to use it in app component, which is outside this users module. That's why we need to export this particular component. Now see, I exported the component, so I can use it in app component. There shouldn't be any error. So that is very important, often asked in interviews, that how do you use Angular components from different module. So this is the answer. Import the custom module and then export the respective components that we want to use outside of the module. In point number 2, we were using it inside the same module. That's why we did not write export. But here we are using from a different module. That's why we exported it. This is point number 3. Now point number 4. How does Angular components communicate? Now this is one of the most frequently asked question in interviews, right? Communication. Now there are different ways of doing this. So your answer should be Angular components communicate via mainly two methods. One is using input and output directives, right? The other thing is using services, right? So you have input and output directive that you will use, and we will use services to communicate between different components, right? So I'm going to show you example of both now. So let me first create one more child component. So that way we are learning about input and output now. So let's do that. Alright, so for this we need some relationship like parent child. Now what is a parent? Parent is the one which is sending the data to child. And what is child? Child is giving back the data to parent, right? Alright, so that being said, let's go ahead and I'm going to use this. So here what I'm going to do, inside users, I'm going to create one more component. I'm going to call it filter users. So from list users, I'm going to send data. From list users, I'm going to send data to filter users, and this will be input, right? Input to filter users. And from filter users, so here it would be filter users. Now see the direction of the data. Now here filter users will give back data as output, and it will be consumed by the list users, right? See this. So list users will send data which is an input to filter users. Filter users will give output which will be consumed by list users. So that is input and output, or also called as parent-child relationship, that some people refer to it as. All right. Okay, so we got two components. One is list users, one is filter users. Let's get started. So what I'm going to do first, since they are in the same module, I'm going to call this inside the list users, and I'm going to say app filter users. So what happens is, now this should be easily visible here, which is filter users work, because it's part of the list users, right? So list user works, and then app filter works is called. Now let's change some value. We are inside filter. Now see, it will change. We are inside filter, right? Because these two are coming from list users. So if I remove this, that will not be displayed. right? So perfect. So it means that our app filter users is being recognized inside list users. Now our use case is to use input. So for that you will pass the data. So I'm going to say I'm going to pass a data which is called data for now. Dump. Yeah, I know. So let's use that, right? So here I'm going to pass a simple string for now. What? So here, see, I'm saying that I'm going to pass data. Now, should it be called data? No, absolutely not. It can be any name that you want. It can be full name, it can be channel name, any variable name you can give here. Any name you can give, whichever you want to refer as input. So I'm saying channel name and I'm passing a variable to app filter. So now this is how you pass the input to app filter. Now, since we are passing input, it needs to be consumed. Let's do that part. Go to app filter users, and here we are going to say that at the rate input, I'm saying I'm expecting a input. What is it? Channel name. What is it type? It's a type string. So now look carefully here. It imported input from Angular core, and I'm saying that this component filter users will have an input by the name channel name. What is the type? It is now string in this case. It can be JSON, it can be you want to typecast it, so you might want to have a model, you want to define that, that's also fine. Now, once you receive this, I want to display it. We are inside filter with channel name. Now see. So it says property channel name does not exist. Let's see why. Okay, because it is uppercase. So make it small, and the same I will pass it here, which is channel name. Now you see we are inside filter name with name arc. That name is passed from list users. Now let's change it. So see, now it got changed because the data is being now sent from list users to app filter. That is the important thing that you should know. Now we can make it, you don't have to hard code it, right? So what we will do, I'm going to say cname, I'm going to bind it using a variable, and in this I'm going to say cname is equal to, right? So see, so now whenever there is data change in the component data type level, we are passing dynamic data channel name to the component app filters, and in the app filter we are saying we are expecting an input by the name channel name. Now the question comes, can I pass more than one? What do you think? Can we pass more than one? Of course we can pass more than one. How do we capture it? Same way, right? So now see, now I'm going to tax. Now again, this is the type of data you want to pass. Now let's close it here. I'm going to squeeze them so that I can have. Okay, so here let's pass tax equal to, again, tax val. Now define some value here equal to 200. So see, now I'm passing two inputs to this particular component. One is channel name, one is tax. In the filter, I'm saying I'm expecting channel name and tax, right? And same way, let's bind it with tax as simple. Now see, it says property tax does not exist. So let's see why. Input is there tax. It should be binded. It is saying property tax does not exist. We are inside. Okay, let's see why. Was this saved? Okay, so now it was not saved. So you see now arc tutorials and this value are dynamically passed from parent, which is list users, to app filter users. So that is the dynamic data that we are passing. I hope this is clear now to you. How do you pass data from parent child? So that's the important thing. We need to pass data from parent using bracket data attribute, and you can give variable name that you want to pass. It can be any name, right? uh, it's not actually variable name. So this is the directive, right? So I mean, you're doing a kind of a binding here, so it's kind of the name that you want as input, right? So I'll say input name here, and same needs to be defined in the child component as input, and say that you are going expecting that as an input, right? So okay, so that was how do you pass from parent to child. List users is parent, app filter users is child. You got the channel name and tags that you're passing as the input. Now I'm saying that once some operations are done, app filter users will also give an output, right? So for that, what we are going to say, let's do that now. We'll use output active, and we will say this particular component will give output. What is the output? I'm going to say updated list, right? For now, I'm going to say string. That's fine. It doesn't matter now. So I'm going to say it's going to give a string, which is an output. When is it going to give? Let's say I'm going to put a click event for now, and I'm going to say that when I click on this, it should update the value, update users, and update users. So let's define this method, and here we will say update users, and we are going to say, let's first, we know that it will be called, but still just for your sake I'm just putting that clicked on update users. Okay, so what are we doing? We are putting a button in filter users component. On click of it, update users will be called, and what is there in update users? We are just doing a console log, nothing more than that. Like this, we have a button. I will now do a simple console log here. On click, I click here and it says clicked on update users. Ideally, now what I want is every time user clicks on this particular link or button, I want to send the new data, right? So what is the new data? So I'm going to say, now see here, I'm going to say this updated list is what? Is equal to new event emitter. Now I'm saying it's a new event emitter, right? Not from here, it should be from the LC code, event emitter. Okay, so now we got the new event emitter, and I'm going to say this I'm going to emit. What is emit? Emit is nothing but you're going to send, or you're going to relay the message, since it's all being listened. So here I'm going to emit, and what I'm going to emit? Let's say new, you have user object equal to some values you have. It can be any JSON or any object, right? So it doesn't matter. It can be a complex one. For now, I'm just showing you how to emit the data. So see, I'm calling once again, take a look from start. You have a button, we click on it, this method gets called, and what is this method doing? We have an object, JSON object, which is user object, using updated list. What is updated list? It's an output. That means I'm saying that this will emit the data from child to parent by the name updated list, which is a new event emitter. Okay, now you can also typecast it and say that, you know, if you want of a certain type, you can put that, or I can put a void or any type you want. Now you have the event emitter. Now I'm saying this, whenever this method is called, this dot updated list dot emit the new values. What is the new value? In this case, it is the user object, right? Now child is sending the data, but parent is not yet receiving it. So let's fix that. So here, now remember, whatever data that you provide, right, it has to be of the same name. So here you see now, what is the value that you emitted? See that, that is important. We are saying the output will be of the name updated list. So copy that, go to your list users, paste exactly same name. It should be same name because you will be getting the data there. Here I'll say updated list. It can be any name. updated users. It's a new method in the parent now, which will capture that event. So here I'm going to say event and updated users. I'm going to put one here method, and I'm going to say I'm expecting the data here, console.log event. Let's see one more time and then I'll show you the output. We have a button in filter users. Click on it, you get to update users. In update users, we are saying relay or emit the value, which is updated list, which is a new event emitter, right? It's an event. So I'm saying updated list dot emit new value. What is the value? In this case, it is user object. It can be any value that you want. There is no rule that it has to be of certain type. But again, in most realistic cases, you would have some kind of a JSON object that you want to send. Okay, so we are sending the user object to from child to parent. Now in the parent, it's an event emitter. That's why I've binded it as an event. And what is the name? It's the same name that you listed as output here in the child updated list. Now once you have it, I'm saying whenever you get the data, call a method in parent which is updated users and have that value. Here I'm implementing that method updated users. Now and event. I'm just doing a console log. Now the confusion a lot of time people will have is, should it have same name? No, it can be any name you want. There is no hard code rule that you should have the same name. See, now my child has a different name here, which is update users. In my parent, I'm using users. So it can be any name that you want, as long as that's up to your business logic or application that you want to use. Important thing, it's an event, capture it here, you will get the data. Now let's see that in action. Alrighty, so let me clear everything. So first, when you click on it, see, when you click on it, it comes to the child update users. Here it will create this object, then it will emit the value using the output event emitter. In the list, in the parent, I'm capturing it using the updated list, the same name that you used in the child as output, and I am calling a method whenever I get this data, which is users. So here I have users and I'm logging the event. Now you can always bind this data and show it in the UI. So if I say user equal to empty object for now, and I'm going to say this dot user is equal to event, and in the UI I'm going to say h3 data received from child, right? So here I'm going to just say user, and I'm not going to loop it, I'm just going to use JSON so you see the output. Initially see it is empty, there is no data. Now I click on it, I get the data from the child back to parent. That is how the input and output works in terms of Angular communication. I hope I have tried to make it easy and you're able to follow. So give it a try. This is the input and output. This is the way Angular components communicate, right? Now, can there be more than one emits? Yeah, it can be based on different events. You can have different types of emits that you need to capture, right? This is the most important way that Angular components communicate, which is input and output. So make sure that you try this out yourself. Let me know if you see any doubt. I'm always here to help you. The next important thing is Angular components communicate via services, right? Now, how do they do that? Let me quickly show you that also demo. Now, we have a module by the name users. It have two components. So I'm going to throw in a new folder. I'm going to say services, right? So here I'm going to step up one level. That is, I am at the app level, and I'm going to run the command ng generate service, and I'm going to say users. So using the service, the Angular components will communicate. Now let me show you. You got the okay, we created it here. So I'm going to delete this. move to recycle. Instead, I'm going to go to services and do the same. So I will have the services generated inside the services. Okay, so here you have user service. So ideally what will happen is you would have something like this in the app module. I'm going to inject. This is how real-time code would look mostly. Angular dot oh, import. Just bear with me. Okay, so now I have imported HTTP client module in app module, and I'm going to inject it right here in the imports array of app module, and I'm going to go to service, and I'm going to go to import, and I'm going to write HTTP client from Angular/HTTP. Okay, so once you have it, you will create an instance in the constructor. You will inject it and write HTTP client. Now you have it. Now let's say you want to implement a method which says get users, and you will say this dot HTTP dot get. You will have a URL like this. Your API. This is your API endpoint or REST API endpoint that you will call to get the data, and you will return, etc. Right? So this is how you will usually write a service. So assume that I've done all of this, and what I get is the output. So let's call it users equal to, I'm going to quickly throw in a username, channel, and I'm just throwing in two values so that okay. And then I'm going to just to make sure that we have right. So we have three values now. Okay. So this is a set of users that imagine that you will receive as an output when you do this endpoint HTTP call. Now let's just return this. Okay. So once you return this, now see, I'm going to go to my users in the list users. I'm going to go to here and import this service, and now I can use that. So here I'm going to say dot slash services dot slash dot slash services slash user service. Now see, user service, and this is what I need to inject it in my constructor, create a instance, and I can, depending upon if I want to use it as a public, I can make it public or private, but for now I'll make it private. Ng on in it, I'll write this dot users dot get users. I get the users list in my list component, console.log users, or even better, let me just throw it in the, show it you in the UI itself. So I'm going to take this out and make it this dot users, and here I'm going to say users is equal to, or I can say, now it says duplicate identifiers. Okay, there's a method already. Okay, so I'm going to say list users and this dot list users. Okay, so now in the HTML I'm going to put it here, and I'm going to put one more HTML and say data received from service. Okay, and here let's just put that value, and I'll just loop it through JSON. Alright, so see, data received from service, you see all these values that are coming from the service, right? Because that's where we defined all these values in the service, which is through method get users, right? So this is one way. Now the same method can be shared in the other components. So if I go to filter users, I can use it again like this, right? So in the filter users, again I can use it. We need to inject in this component also, Okay, and we are going to set this dot user service dot get users. Okay, so console.log from filter users. You get the idea that the same method in the service can be used in the filter also, and you can see filter from users, we get the 3 data. Alright, so that was about, we have a service, we have a method. That method can be used in different components so that they share the same data. Right? That is the way Angular components can communicate between each other using services. Right? Create a service using ng generate service, service name, and then implement methods which can be shared between components for sharing data. All right, so that is about Angular component communication for service using services. Right, now these are the commonly things that are asked in every single Angular interview that you will attend. Also, on a day-to-day basis, you will be doing these when you join in any Angular project. The last thing I want to cover for you is the Angular component lifecycle. That will cover almost everything that Angular component will include. Right? So let's get started on that. So the next one is Angular component lifecycle. I'm putting in a lot of effort. I hope you like this video. Please do give a thumbs up. Please do like this video. Thank you in advance. All right, so what is a lifecycle method, right? So Angular component goes through a series of states before it actually work, right? So that those are called lifecycle hooks. Lifecycle hooks. Right? So what are the different types of life cycle hooks that you have seen? So the first one, say it's on ng on changes. So whenever there is some change in the component, this will be called. So if you see unknowingly we were using ng on init. That is also one of the life cycle hook, right? So how do you use them? First, to make sure, you need to implement the interface here. That is, if you are using ng on init, you will have to use on init here. I will show you that in just a bit. Let me first give you all the lifecycle hooks so that you can remember it. First is ng on changes. Whenever there is change, you will detect it. Ng on init, which means whenever the component is loaded, right? Ng do check. Then you have ng. Now inside this actually do check, right? Now there are different things that will happen, like ng after content init. That means once the data is completely rendered in the component, once ng after content checked. So there are different states like this, but these are the mains. I'll just quickly list it down. I have covered that in the component lifecycle. Please do check that out video for detail. But these are the common ones. I'll list down. View in it. Then you will have ng. I think it's after view checked. Yeah, it is after content init after content view checked. So that's how you should remember. After ng do check has two things: ng after content, ng after view. So init and checked. All right, so the next one is ng on destroy. Now this is when you want to exit the component, right? So these are the some of the frequently used ones. I'll tell you. Ng on changes. So listen to changes in data or like form or state or value change, etc. So this is very important. This is also something that you will use mostly often. Ng on init is absolute stunner, which means this will be used I've used it like 70% of the times on most components, that and every time a component is initialized, loaded, run this. So it is on start of the component. So you'll use this almost 80 to 90% times on initialization of the component, right? And then this is also sometimes when if you want to wait for content to be loaded, to wait till content is initialized and check that if it is loaded. If the view is completely rendered, you can use this. And this is when you want to exit the component, or whenever you navigate away from component, you want to use ng on destroy. What are some of the use cases? I'll give you some of the common ones that we use. Now, whenever you do a subscription, right? Let's say lot of people tend to do this. They make HTTP call and write subscribe statements in ng on in it, right? But one of the common mistakes also is that they don't do unsubscribe. So whenever you write a subscribe HTTP call in ng on in it, make sure that you write a ng on destroy and you unsubscribe the subscription, right? So that's where ng on destroy will work. This will help you in memory management. So these are some of the things. Let's see that in practical. Enough of theory, but go through this. I've created a separate list where I've explained all of this in detail, but you should know about Angular components in detail. So I've covered the life cycles here for you. Now take an example of this. Here we are writing ng on it. So how do you work with life cycle? Let's say you want to implement ng on destroy, right? So you'll write on destroy. Right now it will give you error because you have not implemented it. So get it here and say ng on destroy console.log and say component is destroyed. So whenever you do navigate away from this component, so you see we imported on destroy from Angular core just like on init, and we are saying that this component implements, these are the lifecycle hooks, which is on init, on destroy, and implement that here, right? So this is how you use the lifecycle component lifecycle hooks. All right, that was all I could think of to cover in Angular components. If you get this correct, you should be able to answer at least 80% of the questions that are asked on Angular components. I'll give you two bonus tips, right? Which is on component. Okay, that is another thing that is often asked, so I'll just list down that also for you, right? How many ways, how many ways you can use component template, right? This is yet another important question that is often asked. I'll just show you that also. So when you open the component file, you'll see that there is something called template URL, which has the HTML, right? Which has the HTML for this particular component. But sometimes you don't want to use this, so I'm going to comment this here. Instead, we can use something called template, which means using backtick, I'm going to write the template right here. Cite the filter users. Now see, I am not using HTML file anymore. I'm writing the HTML template right here. So what are the use cases? There are times like alert or notification message or alerts or quick messages to user that hey, it was your subscription is about to expire, your trial is going to expire, etc., etc. So if you have only one line of code, which is your template, so you can directly put it as a template also. This is often asked in interviews, so I'm just giving you a example. So see here inside the filter users, now this is coming from your template. The template is defined right here, right? Now again, you can use the subscription just like you can use interpolation, everything just like how you would use normally in your HTML file. Now see here, now this is one line is coming from this template. So this is, there are two ways of using template. One is using template URL and the other is using the template in the component itself. Okay, that was number 7. And the last point is can you include more than one CSS files in component? Every component every component comes with one default CSS or SCSS depending upon what option you have chosen. Like in this case, you see filter users component dot SCSS. The same is mentioned here. Now let me put it back and comment this for you. So you see style URLs, right? It says URLs. Remember that. Read the difference. Template URL. That means there is only one URL. Style URLs. That means it's an array. It can take multiple style sheets like this. Custom style dot SCSS. This is totally fine. I'm passing more than one. So if you have custom files, you can say custom style dot SCSS and give some, say, I have a paragraph, right? So I'm going to custom and give it custom here. And here you put custom and say color is red. So see here, red color, because I have passed multiple style sheets to this, right? All right. So much information for you. I hope you will be able to practice all of this and master Angular components. There is nothing more than this to Angular components. It's as simple as this. It cannot get any simpler. It cannot get any easier than this. I have tried to give you real-time use cases also. Go through this list, practice with me, pause the video, practice it yourself, make sure that you're not getting any errors. If you get any errors, drop me comments. I'm right here to help you. I hope you liked the video. I hope you enjoyed watching me code. Um, if you like my work, please do consider buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/arctutorials. In the next episode, I will start with Angular services in detail along with dependency injection, calling HTTP, different methods, statuses, etc. Stay tuned for that. If you like the video, please do hit that like button. Please do subscribe to my channel to keep supporting me. Yeah, see you in the next episode. Thank you so much.